Alrighty, our data management fundamentals training. So if you'd like to start your CDMP journey, we have our fundamentals course, which is for the fundamentals exam, where you can get your associate level. We have these slots available. We have created some more slots, so we have 2 or 3 in July. August should have 3, and yeah, September will have 3 in October. So if you'd like to know more about our training, it's involved with, or it has summarized study notes, 321 practice questions, it's the mind maps, and yeah, we can create a study group for you if you'd like to join, and that's to help you for the data management for certification. So yeah, we'll be happy to share that with you. It's a 4-day course. We have designed the course so that anyone can join, so you don't have to have read the DMBOK beforehand. And yeah, we'd love to help you get that associate certification. We do recommend writing the exam maximum 2 months after training, so you just have to dedicate a month of your time, and yeah, you'll get that associate level. And then we have a friendly reminder that the CDMP exam, or the certification, consists of 3 exams. So we have our fundamentalist and 2 specialist exams. So you have 3 years to finish all 3. And if you don't finish all 3, your associate level will expire, and you would have lost all of that work. So yeah, if you need help with your specialist exams, we do offer specialist training, and I'll be happy to help. Oh, we have 750 practice questions, and they're all very similar to the exam. We've noticed some of the questions are very different from the exam. So with our training and all these practice questions, yeah, you'll be ready for your exam and you'll write with confidence. And then we have the CDMP DIY. It's a new product that we are launching next week, Thursday. And that's a CDMP-wide DIY toolkit. So if you know the DMBOK and you've worked with it, and you just need a little bit of help before writing your exam, this product is for you. So it comes with quizzes and practice exams, the summary version of the DMBOK, video recording of Veronica Diesel, our master instructor, and yeah, you get mind maps and online group discussion boards. So yeah, if you're fluent in the DMBOK, maybe not fluent, but close to fluent, then this is the product for you. And yeah, that's everything from my side. So I'm going to hand it over to our panel discussion host, Veronica Diesel, and thank you to everyone who's joined us. Yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat, and if you need anything, please feel free to contact me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Veronica. Over to you.
Thanks, Deb. So you did a really great intro to our DIY. It's going to be really exciting, guys. It's not for people that need the 4-day. Remember, it's not for people that haven't actually been through the DMBOK. It's there for people that just don't have time to go through a whole training. You know the DMBOK, you can look stuff up, you can find it, you understand the language, but we are changing the focus of learning from being spoon-fed to doing it yourself, which means you do the practice questions, and where you fall short, you look it up. It's active learning rather than passive learning. But there's going to be a lot more information about that. We're very excited about it. So let me, can I share?
Yep.
I can hear somebody's not on mute since there's a background noise, but maybe it's just me.
I'll try to find them. I can't see it.
Oh, okay. Oh, no problem. Maybe it's just my side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me find that's what I need. Okay, so you guys, you're going to watch the teams because I'm not watching it. So
Yeah, I'll watch
what
it.
we are doing now, we've got our panelists. Oh, it's a pity we didn't show those won't somebody please in the meantime while I'm talking, just put those slides onto the card onto slides so that we can show everybody in graphic detail those beautiful cards that we've made. I don't have that in my deck here. What we have in the deck here is we've got our first 3 superheroes on the panel today. JG, Paul, and Esty. Those are our first three, our pilot superheroes. We are making we understand that a data career is something special, and to make sure that you also know that you're something special, you can be a superhero with whatever your role is. It has a kind of a superpower. And look at JG, he's standing there with a hawk on his shoulder. It means he's got supervision, that he can see the future. He's the CDO. He's the one that bridges the gap between technology and business. Can you see him standing on a bridge when you see him? Esty's a modeler. She's a shapeshifter. She's got that like octopus type of thing. Paul is also in data governance, and he's got the he's Mr. Electricity. Howard will put those slides together, and we can have a look at it. So before we even get there to look at our superheroes and their careers and discuss their careers, we need to, as
Sorry,
the
Veronica.
data governance. Yes.
Sorry, Veronica. There's a question from Sunita.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Howard. Hi, Veronica. Hi, panel.
Hi, Sunita.
Hi.
I think I just realized what I wanted to ask.
Okay.
I think I was wondering if you were talking to a picture, because the slide that's up that says questions regard my career.
That's
Right.
the start.
So
Okay.
we are, Sunita, Monica's just about to put the cards of JG, Esty, and Paul. We're just waiting for Monica. She'll do it any minute now. She'll put it in the chat.
Thanks, Howard.
Okay, brilliant. So before we even get into the questions regarding our career, being good data people, we have, remember our business glossary. Why do we have a business glossary? So that we can all be on the same page and we have the same definition of what we're looking at. So we first of all have to say, what is a career? That's my, what is a career? It's what we originally thought of as a career. Remember when those of us who are pretty old went off to university, you either were going to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, or I was going to be a geologist. We had some idea of what we were going to do, and we were going to study for that, and then we were going to get a job in that. So I was going to go and work for a mining company. I was going to be a geologist, and that was going to be my career, and I was going to do that until I retired. So that's the original way we used to look at a career. It's ultra rational. You study for it, and then you learn some things, and it's all in the same direction. It's all the same thing. And when you retire, what are you going to do? Your career's dead. That's not what we're talking about as a career right now. We might have thought about our careers like that, maybe because of the way our parents viewed careers. Maybe we had a bit of fear about it. Our parents, their careers didn't go the way they wanted to, maybe because there was financial issues. We might have been pushed into some kind of a line because of you need a job. This is actually why I studied computer science. My father was very worried about his daughter having a career as a geologist. And as a woman in the 1980s, I wanted to work underground. It was not allowed. So he said, do computer science as well, so at least you can get a job. So I did. Needless to say, my geological career took a few turns after that. It's that uncertainty about the future. You need finance, you need to get a job, you must actually have something that you can work towards. Some people are extremely grateful that they landed in the career that they're in, because it's very fulfilling. It's we can look at it as fulfilling, or we can look at it as, I made a mistake. What am I doing here? So to stop my going on here, I want to ask our panelists, each one of you, now that we understand that was what we thought a career was, it might not be what we're actually in our discussion ending up with as our definition of a career, but I'd like to ask our panelists if that's what they felt about their careers initially. How did they get into what they're in at the moment? And well, let's see what they say. Can I start with JG, please? How did you get into your career? Really quick.
I was really intrigued with the kind of combination of medicine and engineering, and so I chose to do biomedical engineering. It was offered as a postgraduate UCT. It wasn't offered widely in those days. It now is offered as an undergrad, and so that kind of set my sights, and I went and I chased that down. But when you do a degree like that over several years, you pick up a relatively large bursary obligation. And so, interestingly enough, my initial career was influenced not by my choice of study, but by my need to satisfy a bursary obligation. So, Veronica, when you say there's this purposefulness about a career, there's levels of practicalness where you come out on. I try to buy myself out of my bursary obligation, and then I took a deep swallow when they prepared the numbers, and I just went, well, cool, okay, where would you like me to work? And that's where I started working in SAP. So my initial work was in SAP, which is a ERP product, and that's where I started. And I actually needed to, over time, revert back to that kind of feeling that I had when I chose what I studied, because I incurred a bursary obligation. So, I mean, no regrets, but there's not always a direct route. So that's how I kind of ended up doing ERP. I guess that might be where the data interest comes from, because it's an ERP product is all about bringing data in from all over the different businesses, and I saw the challenges and so on and so forth. So I guess that my data career started by accident because of a bursary obligation, and so it went.
Yes, you see, mine actually started because I had to work for a geophysicist, and I was processing your seismic data. Esty.
So I'm an industrial engineer by training. So studied industrial engineering in Pretoria, and then we moved to Cape Town, which wasn't really traditionally a big hub for industrial engineering. And I kind of ended up in IT. So when I started working, I was working as a quality assurance analyst, which, although super important, is not a great job for an engineer. But started in quality assurance. And actually, so shout out to Paul Grobler on the call. I was in quality assurance, then I moved to process analysis, and I was very fascinated by data ops, and bumped into Paul Grobler at the office, and he's like, have you heard of DAMA? And told me all about DAMA and data management, which maybe for other people that's known about DAMA and data management forever, I didn't. Like, I didn't know that this entire field existed. It was like, oh, this makes so much sense. So many things that I'd been thinking about that was really interesting. It's an established field with a lot of knowledge and backing and history about it. So my move to data started from somebody that's part of DAMA that is very passionate about data, that spoke to another random person at the office about data. And I think if it wasn't for that, I might not even be in data right now. And I'm really happy with being in data.
Oh, that's awesome, Esty.
So
Thank you.
Paul.
And Paul Bolton, give us a quickie about your career beginnings.
Mine's not so simple, so it might take long, but I'll keep it short and sweet. Cut me off when I need to be cut off. Yeah, just coming out of a weird schooling background, I actually wanted to be a marine biologist, of all things. I love the ocean, wanted to do that, but at school got talked out of it because of the low level of earnings and potential in South Africa at the time. I don't know if it was right or wrong, but kind of then said, well, okay, I'm going to go to the military. I was fascinated with the military, and I wanted to go permanent force, but my father said, no ways, you must go study, and said anybody in life can only do anything of any good if you're a CA. And so that was his opinion. I started off for 3 months and just hated every second of it and dropped out, got a job in the Standard Bank. And the only reason I got a job in the Standard Bank was because I come from a family of bankers, so there's lots of connections. And I got into banking after a while. So in terms of what is a career, I attributed joining a company like Standard Bank, working hard, climbing the ladder, getting the promotions, and then one day just getting hopefully a nice check and retire, and that was it. And that seemed extremely boring for me. And so I left the bank, got into a sales environment because I couldn't find what turned me on in that sense. You know, if it wasn't going to be marine biology, then or civil engineering or something cool like that I could build fancy buildings, then let me just rather just make money. And so the driver was money, and I saw the business world as a money-making potential. So I went into the business world and became a business developer. I opened a coffee shop, which ended up bombing. And that's where things started to turn, because I ended up in Dar es Salaam as a bit of a charity employment or job. A guy that I knew had a big company up there. He said, come over and join us. And I got really stuck into the processes. I got stuck into all the nuts and bolts of the business. And because I was screaming about all the pain that I was experiencing through the processes, he said, hey, you got to give this guy a call called Howard Diesel. He's a smart guy, and he can help you automate some of the stuff that you're fighting with me about. And that's where the journey kind of started with Howard, is hooking up there in Dar es Salaam. Came home, and Howard tested the waters with me, I could probably say. Put me in front of JG, of all people, to write reports, which I just suckled with. I couldn't understand why there were 500 different date dimensions and why I never picked the right one. And I was always getting dumped on by the client, JG again, because the report didn't balance to what he thought. And
Really,
CFH.
But it was Howard's niggling you, JG, just sending me in there. And then I got sent to Zambia to write processes for a cotton gin and cotton process, which was fascinating. And slowly, Howard introduced me to more and more of the data management world, but didn't label it data management, because I took a pivot and I studied project management, trying to find the fit. You know, I didn't think I was smart enough to be a clever techie like the guys that I was working with. And because I didn't have the background and all that, I suppose, but so I did project management. I got into business analysis and ended up, and the culmination of it was interesting, because before COVID, and COVID killed it, which was a good thing, is I was like an octopus, actually. Sorry, but probably a bad analogy because Estee's got the octopus dress on. But I was asked to be the automation executive at a travel company. I was the front man to present new tenders for new business. I was the online tools specialist managing the online implementations. I was then also called as the data manager. And I say that with a bit of a giggle. I was the implementation of projects. And so when I wanted to try and cement all of this, and I applied for a more senior role, I didn't get the role, and I was confused why, because I can do so much and they're asking me to do so much. They give me so much responsibility. Why is this level up not good enough for them? And so it really left a big question mark. But then COVID had its way. I lost that work, sitting at home and looking to do whatever I suppose was going to put some bread on the table. And I was trying to leverage off my skills, but then talked to Howard again and got the opportunity to again get into business development, which I really love business. And if I tell you about the coffee shop, the canteen that I built, many ventures trying to I just love business, and I love what business can do for society, for the communities and that. And I see now how data management really can support that and benefit business. And that's probably the biggest part that I love about learning this subject with you guys on the call.
Oh, thanks, Paul. You've just for my next slide.
So yeah, I'm very confused. Obviously, you can see
Our search for
Oh, wow.
purpose. That's our careers, and it's this for me. When I first saw this slide when Howard made these, I thought this is very scary, because what if we miss it and we end up having a purposeless life? But that's not what we're trying to say here. We are trying to say here that our search for what we do in life, which is going to, the sum total of which is going to equal our career, is actually our search for a life that has a purpose, our life that's going to have meaning, and it's going to deliver meaning to other people. It's a representation of our personal values and philosophical and practical and all of that, how we're going to put it together. It's what we do, and it's actually who we are. And that's the scary thing for me. That our careers become what we do and who we are. And I say, what this anyway, what you have to do to be able to have this purpose-driven life is you have to be taking control of the decisions that you make within your life. Our career represents our purpose in life. We are there to make a difference. So eventually we have to take control. Now, the analogy here is that your career is like a menu. Now, it's a series of decisions that you make daily about what you're going to do with your life. And imagine if you decide, I'm a vegan, I'm going to eat vegan, and you go to a restaurant, then obviously you're only going to pick the vegan things on the menu because that's what's good for you. You're not going to eat a steak because that's not good for you. And that's what's up to us to recognize now. We have to decide every day, every year, every month, every hour, what is good for us and what's going to advance our career and what's going to be not good for us. What must we avoid? So in other words, you have to be the captain of your career. And being the captain is making the decisions for yourself. Now, from what we all described, me, Paul, JG, somebody else maybe started making decisions, or you made a decision that you felt you had to make because you needed money or something like that. Now, what we're saying is, okay, you do have those practical decisions, but bearing that in mind, what are you going to do to actually be in the driving seat of your career and not in the passenger seat? So back to our panel. How do you have you taken control of your career? And if you haven't, can you see how you might be able to start taking charge? Can I start with Paul again, because your picture's on my screen?
Yeah, I definitely think so, Veronica. As I said, that sort of that coming together just before COVID of that disappointment, of obviously realizing, shucks, what I am isn't clear in how I just answer in an interview process or answer an application form. And also it's not coming through to the person that's interviewing, and therefore there's, I suppose, a lack of confidence that I'll be the good fit or the right fit.
Mm.
And then coming out of that situation and sitting back saying, okay, now what? And it wasn't obvious right up front. Obviously, I needed to do something, and the business development sales is, I've always done that and I've enjoyed it. So that part of me was a great fit. Howard, I think, knows that of me from the past of working with him, being the front man with the customers and all that in Modelware #1 way back. So that was a good fit. So it was quite fluid, and I could get into it quite quickly. But then along that journey, deciding let's actually start tackling the subject and learning and getting on the path. And then through the experience of developing the products like the career DMMA, the profiling, all of that whole journey with you and the team, finding the right battery of tools and assessments and things like that, really, obviously for myself, spoke that there's a way out of this confusion, and there's a way to at least get to a place where you can understand where you're at, develop a roadmap with some milestones and targets and all that, and you can start walking. And then, of course, and not to boast about the people on the call, but you got some serious people that I've been introduced to. You guys, Howard, JG, Paul Grobler, SD, lots of solid data management professionals that are, there's examples for me, living examples, that are doing well and they're enjoying it and they're making a difference and they are pressing forward. Yes, at various stages in their development, but there's these real live examples. It's not some I'm reading about it in some book. That's my advantage that I have with this community. So that's been good for me. So I think I've done it. I've made the commitment to walk that path, still learning and figuring out. And I think it's, every day, I think you mentioned it, the decision making is key.
Yes, it is.
Because I'm so used to, I mentioned it to Howard in my little chat with him about, I became a habitual change lover. And so when somebody came with a new exciting thing that I could try and do and try and figure out for them or try and tackle, I love to solve the problem, and so jumped in it, boots and all, and it was awesome and great, and it gave me all goosebumps and stuff. But was it adding value to my direction? Probably not a lot of the time. And but also, like we've discussed, not to throw away the experience as well, because it does still build and add value. It does do that. So it's not throwaway, but having clear direction in those decisions is key. And I think I've started developing that, which is good.
Yes, that's great. And what you've mentioned there is typical concrete random, by the way. Yes. Jumping around and getting excited with a whole lot of different things. It's good, but you have to be able to channel, you have to be able to make those decisions about what is going to be beneficial for you. And here's an example, excuse me, of a roadmap for somebody who wants to build their career in data governance. So when we do an assessment, we would give you a desired attention roadmap. And in other words, if you want to get into data governance and go high, you need to try and get into anything that's going to build those skills. That's what Paul mentioned, the roadmap.
So Veronica, maybe I can just add there. This was done for Sanjeev, a CDO in India, and after doing his personal DMMA, we were then able to say, okay, business glossary is something that he's really bad at, and he needed to pay attention. So the idea was, in your menu of options, here are the things that you want to go after and achieve in roadmap A1, A2, A3, and A4, however long that is. These are the things that make up his roadmap or his optional menu list. So it's the idea of saying, show me what my menu list, and let me choose and find projects that help me deliver on those menu options.
100%. Yeah. I haven't asked the others about their captaincy. Can we ask Captain Underpants? I know Captain Underpants is the captain of his career, but JG, when did you take control? What made you take control? What was the event?
So it's interesting, Veronica. If you had to ask me that question without a lead-in, I'd go, this construct of control is an interesting one when you find yourself in an entrepreneurial space, for example, where you don't have access to the enterprise type resources. You don't have the luxury of developing things in a sequential manner. You actually are slightly more prone to picking up the skills as they come at you, because they're an absolute, they're a necessity. So the word having taken control of my career doesn't actually sit neatly with me. It might, the perception of that might be, but that's an internal dilemma that I have. But when it comes to taking control, I think there was a distinct time when I was working for a company. We were busy with an earnout, and I could see that we were under an earnout constraint. But this was a logistics company who had started to figure out that data actually unlocks an incredible number of their challenges. So I had this dilemma that I was part of an earnout and being required to be in a project management function, but I tasted what it was like to have data revealing some of the, or I'm going to call it unlocking some of the supply chain challenges. And I took a decision that actually the companies were not going to settle the dispute, because basically they were fighting over where I should spend my time. The supply chain company have gone, oh my word, look at what this guy can do. He should just do more of that. My earnout was, no, you cannot steal our resource because he's an integral part earnout. And so that dilemma resulted in a very interesting reaction. Is I just resigned both.
Wow.
And said, if you can't agree, I'm going to have to help you here with respect. No, both, because I just felt that I had tasted what it was like to do analytics in the supply chain, and I didn't want to not do that. And so that was a relatively dramatic, but when I reflect back on it, is maybe that was me taking ownership of the fact that I didn't ever want to do anything other than analytics. And that was quite a defining moment. It's quite something to come home, tell your wife you've resigned. And she goes, oh, that's exciting. You've resigned to go to which job? No, I've just resigned to make sure that we break a deadlock. Oh, okay, that's wonderful. And you're planning to do what, when, how? So I think that maybe it was that action of just realizing that I didn't want to go through other people's wars, and it was going to take at least 2 years to settle that debate. The only way that I could have settled it was to try and deliver to both. That would have really resulted in some damage to me. And so I went, well, fine, let's just actually clear up the debate. I'm actually going to just raise my flag to say that I'm an analytics guy. Now, I didn't have the luxury of, knowing that analytics had a whole body of knowledge behind it. And so I've really just run hard, bumping to everything, creating anxiety and consternation for some of the partners that have worked with me. And yeah, so Veronica, I think that I can go back to a particular event where I went, you know what, I've tasted what data can do. I don't want to do anything else. But whether I'm in control of it right now, I don't know.
JG, maybe to share, and this is my view of the times we went walking around and running around Riyadh, is that you have started to channel the options that you choose in terms of building data products and things like that. So that menu option is always in front of you, and that's where you are investing in terms of saying, whatever I get involved on, I need to see the data product behind it. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I think so, Howard. But what's been really useful for me is sometimes I don't know what to call these things. Like the construct of a data product is, I actually quite like it, versus, I do data analytics and write reports. I like the fact that it's packaged within the construct of a data product, because it's actually, products need to wipe their own face, they need to prove value, they need to deliver money, they need to sometimes be discontinued. And so Howard, I guess there's a channeling that's been enabled through just realizing that there is a body of knowledge, that these are what these things are called. So I've found found the work that we've done being a bit like, it's been quite a nice safe harbor to actually just give things a name. Other people are doing a similar thing. I found that, you know, this data game can be quite lonely if you're calling something by a different name. So you know, call it by its name. And so this career roadmap is actually interesting. I've taken a screenshot of it because I'm going, oh my word, I wonder how many of those things I would say that I can actually do or have done. You know, so I would say I'm very much growing into my data career.
Thanks, JG. That's really, yeah, that's dramatic. Esty, would you say that you've reached that point where you understand that you're taking control, or do you still need to find a moment where you can say that's me, I'm in control?
I think the point arrived for me when I got options. When you just start, I think as a grad currently, you actually do have a lot of options because companies are incentivized to employ graduates. But as soon as that kind of 1 year, 2 year gap is over, it is very difficult to move at that point because you don't have a lot of industry knowledge, or if you want to move industries or change the types of job, that is actually particularly tough. And then so moving where you can or could and having an endless amount of rejection emails from different companies, I think then having almost then where you are, you know, tell people what you like. Like tell people, oh, I think data ops is a very fascinating field, or have those different conversations, because even if you're not working in the area that you want to be working in, having an interest and talking with other people or joining community like DEMA, you can then have those interactions or at least start moving in that space, even if your day job, your actual 9 to 5 isn't what you want it to be. And you start moving in that direction. And I think just then getting new skills, more skills, and then eventually actually, you know, applying for jobs and having interviews with multiple companies. That to me was really great, where it was, okay, it's not like I just have one option. I could choose. Like now it was really felt to me like now this is now my choice. And then also like just in companies where you can kind of choose or you have a say in what type of project you work on, or like I want to develop this. Okay, so when that project comes up, you jump for that project. But it's important that people know where you want to go. And like at this moment, I don't know the 20 years down the line type of thing. Like for now, or at least for the next 5 years, I kind of know this is the picture. Like I like being a generalist at this point, because I want to try everything, but I don't think I might not always be a generalist, but for now I want to try the different knowledge areas or roles and then see, oh no, actually that doesn't fit me. Because what other people say they do in their job, or a book you read, or a perception you have, is frequently different to what it's actually like for you when you are doing that job. And sometimes you won't know until you've actually tried it. And then to say, no,
Not for me.
You don't want to be in that area.
Yeah.
So I think not necessarily a clear path, but I feel like I have options.
And you're moving towards you moving.
Yes, I'm moving.
That's important.
I'm moving. I don't feel stuck. Where I think that was a time in my career where I really felt stuck. I couldn't move somewhere. Where now just having that flexibility, being able to communicate and say this is my interest, or I would like to do that, or different things, and then moving. I don't want to at this point be in the exact same role for 5 years.
But you've got the choice, you've got the
Yes.
options, and
Yes.
it's your daily choice what to do. Yeah, it's a process of choosing. So when we ask people, particularly grads, when we do some assessments on grads, we say, where do you want to be? What is your top of your mountain of your career? Difficult for someone to see, but people tend to have these ideas. Maybe I want to be a really good technical person. Maybe I want to be the CDO. I want to be in charge. Maybe I want to be a thought leader. I want to be a data rock star. When there are conferences, that's going to be me up there on stage, autographing my book and telling people new and exciting ways of doing things. Those are aspirations that in our careers we can have, and it's all right to have. It's all right to say I want to be a thought leader. So our whole assessment process, which actually has led to the development of these cards, is we went through a thinking styles analysis to see how thinking styles is Gregory Rich's thinking styles, where we look at how people take in information and how they order it. Remember I said Paul's a random because he jumped around from different tasks. That's how he orders his information. It's random. I'm sequential. I'm a box ticker. I've got to have a sequential list. I've got to start at the beginning and go through to the end. Now, each one of us is strong for a different kind of role. So we need to understand our inherent strengths. Our thinking styles is one of those. We do an analysis of Clifton strengths, which you'll see on the cards. We've listed everybody's top 5 Clifton strengths. And for a person who's in like a CDO like JG, his number one strength has got to be a strategic type of strength because he's got to see far into the future. And maybe Estee's main strength has got to be, she's got to be organized. Things like that. And we look at those, and then we do that career data maturity assessments and develop a roadmap for somebody to get to where they want to be. So we ask them this: where do you want to be? Do you want to be the CDO? And then we make a kind of a roadmap of how to get there. And of course, the first thing we expect our data people to do is certify. Anyway, that's kind of the roadmap. There might be some luck and fortune in our decision making, but it's our pattern of choosing. And that's the thing that Estee's brought up. Now she's realized she actually can choose. JG made a big choice, must have freaked Wens out no end. But that's the thing, the principle of the path. We've talked about, Howard's talked about this a lot. The principle of the path is you're on a path, no matter what you think, you're on a path. Now, the path is it's dependent on how to get where you want to be is dependent on you. You can walk in the wrong direction, you're not going to get where you want to be. If you're going in the wrong direction, it can be fixed. It's not just make a little detour there. If you don't change direction, you're not going to get where you want to be. You have to change direction. You have to build a habit of actually choosing the things that are good for you. And the bottom thing, if it's not good for you, don't do. So we've got to identify what's going to be good for us in our careers. So you need to be conscious enough on the way you're choosing. Otherwise, the light at the tunnel might be a coming train. And it's deliberately taking control of your life. And the best thing is that you've got your menu. Remember, you've got your menu. You've got to have the power of your menu. What's healthy eating for you and your menu is what you're going to order at the restaurant. It's the same with your job. You've got to apply for projects that are going to take you, like Esty said, she can ask for projects. She can say to the people, this is what I'm interested in. What can you do for me? So it's taking this priority in your life. And then the other thing that's really important, Howard's got a hand up.
Yes, Veronica, I just wanted to share 2 things.
Do you want me to go back?
No.
Okay.
So the 2 things I wanted to share was just our engagement with a large insurance company. They've set up an academy for their grads. And if you remember, we did their assessments and we understood where they were. But what I thought was really helpful after talking to them as individuals and understanding where they want to go is then talking to their management and saying, these are the opportunities, this is a view of where the person would like to go at this point in time. Of course, that changes, but how do we provide options? How do we provide work experience, as Esty was saying? You know, how do you get the next project? How do you do a data quality assessment or a business glossary? So that's also a really nice, once you've got the data about where you want to go, is to actually go and have that open discussion with your manager and saying, this is the path I'd like to follow, and these are, and how do we make it work for both of us? Yes, we know there's always deliverables that I have to deliver, but how can I get involved in some of these other areas where possible?
Thanks. That takes us on to the next slide, which is something that most people neglect, is that you are the driver of your career, but you need a navigator or a co-pilot, and that's a mentor, to find somebody in your life that can actually help you, not necessarily a career mentor, just somebody that helps you navigate life, be it spiritual, be it life, be it career, to have somebody that is a guide for you. And a mentor is somebody that helps you think, doesn't tell you what to do, but helps you work out for yourself what you need to do and where you need to go and what's best for you. So the last thing I'd like to ask the panel is, have you benefited from, do you have a mentor, and how have you benefited from having a mentor? Can I ask JG first? Oh, sorry,
Veronica. I know we actually asked Johan to be part of the panel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've missed him out. So
him.
maybe if we could
Sorry,
we start?
Johan,
Could we start off? Maybe if he could answer this one, and then we'll backfill his other answers, if that's okay, Johan. I'm jumping in here.
I'm so sorry, Johan. Thank you for jumping in.
No worries. No. I enjoyed it listening. So.
So tell us about your mentor, Johan.
Yeah, so it's
or
been
your mentor
quite
ability.
Yeah. You have to stay humble. The thing that I've found the most rewarding, I think, in my career is that I've had to make so many changes and step into new roles where I had very little experience. And that teaches you a way of approaching life which is very curious, like a child. I think like a 6-year-old child, asking questions, just staying curious. I think that's what, that's what sparked it for me over the years, is just being challenged with new things and having to lean into other people's experience and just their ability to grasp concepts. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, just going from that, did you ever feel at that point, because you had to jump into all these different roles, that you were just going with the flow, or did you feel that you were actually in some way a little bit in control and driving yourself?
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting that you asked the question, because I was listening to JG and some of the other guys, Paul's comments around making those decisions where you kind of pivot. And the imagery that came up for me was, there's two kinds of pivots. There's the pivot where it's more of a vehicle turning left or right, and immediately you change direction. And then there's a pivot where it's more of a steering a yacht. So when you steer, yes, obviously some people are very experienced at sailing, and they can tell you that you probably can do a 90-degree turn immediately. But in general, it's about steering towards that direction over time. And even though you might not be able to change immediately, by changing the needle or the direction 1 degree at a time, you start to correct or course correct. And I suppose I'm pretty sure there's some pilots among this crowd. And I think they're more acutely aware of the fact that when you are piloting a plane, you have to be cognizant of the headwinds, and just keep on course correcting, but as a conscious effort. So yeah, I don't know if that helps.
So you were course correcting slowly, but you were in control. Have you got someone in your life who mentors you, helps you think?
I have a number of people that I talk to, but not somebody specifically at this point that's really acting as a mentor, which is, I think, for me a gap that I see, and I consciously tap into people that I think could be a mentor. It's just not realized in the way that I would want to see it. But I think it's also a matter of maybe our understanding of what a mentor is sometimes also needs to be adjusted.
Yes, I think you're right as well, because it's a personal development.
So
whether
yeah,
it's a person or it's lifelong learning, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a likening a co-pilot versus maybe a guru. So sometimes we think the mentor is going to be the guru on top of the mountain. Yeah, and then we realize that actually the mentor is the guy walking next to you, that may not look like the guru, but actually has some very valuable life experiences to learn from.
I love that. I love that analogy. Yeah. Can anyone else of the panel add to that? JG?
You're on mute, JG.
Thank you. I believe that data and data management brings in a very interesting nuance to this construct of mentorability. And I don't always think that there's an opportunity to be mentored by people that are younger than you and a lot younger than you in this particular space. I think that there's an opportunity for mentorship in the data space to break the normal paradigm, which is you older, you're more experienced, you've got more scars. I think that's valid. But when I have a look at some of the technologies where I battle to get my head around why that would be relevant, why it would be there, why is it necessary, and I think that our discipline, more than most, is able to be mentored in a cyclical process. And when you ask a youngster or when I say youngster, when you ask someone that's become quite good in a particular skill to please just share, I think it just energizes that discussion in a way that I think our discipline can benefit from more than others. So I just wanted to highlight this construct of mentorability mustn't be this construct of old and seasoned.
Exactly, and it's a relationship that both parties benefit from. Both parties grow. It's not like, that Yoda, and it's a equal. Like with Johan said, the guy walking next to you can be your guide through certain things.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely mental model that Johan's introduced. The person walking with you could well be part of your team and could well be a youngster where you're going, this is Jen. I don't even know which letter to use anymore. This is Jen Lambda. And it's like, oh, my shattered nerves. Like, what, how does this work? And
the wisdom in the young, yeah.
Yeah. And for us to create that kind of safe harbor where you can share up and share down, and that's encouraged.
I love
I think
it.
we our discipline or our career choice or the choice of data career, I think lends itself to that more than anything else. And
yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That really, really, really is powerful. Really, yeah. Yeah, anyone else? I've got 2 more slides left here in this presentation. So let me quickly go through that. Skills, because that's important part of our career. We have, as if we went into a conventional old school type of career of engineering or CA or medicine or whatever, we'd get a repertoire of skills. But for us, we actually keep adding to our skills. That but when we are choosing a new role or whatever, we're collecting a toolbox of skills in so many different fields, and that can all hone our career and also be the guide for other people. So that's the last slide I've got here, is when you are trying to be the captain of your career. This is a little checklist of things that you need to be thinking about to make sure that you've got your natural strengths. The thinking styles is important because for certain people, like for me, for example, if I have to multitask and keep our little balls in the air, which is something that as a CDO, JG has to do, as an entrepreneur, JG has to do, Paul loves it, Howard loves it. Me, it freaks me out. But I have to learn how to do that. So you recognize where you're not strong and how you can either get team members to fill in those gaps, or you can develop yourself. The Clifton Strengths was another one. You know, see how different people are and how they just naturally fit into certain roles that other people don't. And we can work out what's ideal for you and what is something you're going to have to do, but understand it's something you might have to do early in the morning when you're fresh. The personal DMMA for data people is to see where your maturity levels are in the data space and where you need to work. Assessments, data abilities, that's a new word that we learned that is actually data literacy. What we used to understand as data literacy. Can you communicate with data, tell a story, place an argument, whatever it is? Data abilities is a nicer way of putting it. So, you know, I'm not illiterate. I just don't have the ability yet. And then we must make a menu for driving our own careers, being the captain. What choices are good for us? What choices are not good for us? The mental ability and our data management fantasy team. Well, we've got 3 people so far, and we are planning to make many more data superheroes amongst this group of people. You are all superheroes, and we're looking forward to the next card being Johan, and we'll see where we go from there. So that's my presentation. Up to Howard, do you want to add anything or ask any more questions?
Maybe we should just open it to the people on the chat, and if they would like to ask any questions or any observation.
Sharing.
Anybody on the chat that would like to ask a question, make a comment?
Ask a question of a panel member, Howard, myself, anybody. Are you at least feeling a bit inspired, people? Sunita.
So we've got yeah, Sunita.
Hi. So a lot of what everybody has said resonates with me. I sort of found myself in data management unknowingly. You know, took a position because it became a regulatory requirement that data stewards and record managers and all of that needed to be in place. But what I find is that as much as I would try to captain my career, the range of skills that are being asked for sometimes is totally unrealistic. It's like, you know, you take a little bit of Star Wars and then Star Trek, and then you add in Mandalorian, and then they expect you are a data management professional. How do you figure out, apart from, you know, that assessment that you have, but what would be the right set of skills?
Yeah, I see this. All the questions are coming up with that. How important is the career? All those trending and fast-pacing technologies.
I think what, Sunita, maybe if I can help you answer it, it's quite an interesting one. If we look at how big data has changed, but then how things have stayed the same. So, you know, lots of people talk about the 6 V's of big data. You know, they keep on adding one, but there's only real 3 V's, and all the other V's that they're talking about are still the V's of little data. So the value, the data quality,
The
those
veracity.
principles, those principles that are fundamental to data management will stay fundamental to data management. I was teaching this week and just sharing with people how SQL, doesn't matter whether you're sitting on MongoDB or whatever it is, how important SQL is to be able to understand and interpret data. It will never go away. That ability to inner join, outer join, union the data, it just doesn't go away. And I showed them how it's applied in Power BI, how it's applied, and it's, you know, these the principles that are applied through our entire career that we keep on changing slightly, but you know, we keep on developing. It's almost like we look at the ontology of these days with knowledge graph, but you know, that comes from the enterprise data model. And if we get the core foundation right, we can add lots onto that foundation and keep growing. It's when our foundation is a bit shaky that we feel like we're almost jumping over the river to get to this new tech, but that's not really the case.
Thanks, Howard. That gives me something to think about.
Data modeling is a life skill, people.
But Estee's hand is up.
Yeah, I also think like so many of the things change, and yes, you have to adapt to technology, know SQL, but there are other skills that is traditionally more of the soft skills. But working with people, that is not going to change. Interacting, communicating with people, knowing that even though something is logical for you, it could be difficult for them. How do you communicate that with them? Just having compassion with where those people are, maybe in the company or what they've done. Like, people are important. You can be amazing at your job, but if you are, quote unquote, a brilliant jerk and you're very difficult to work with, that still stays a problem. So you can be amazing in all the tech things. If you can't work with other people or communicate with other people, it's still going to be a problem, given that obviously you work in teams. So unless you have a one-person company and you're only a one-person team, you will always be working with people. So for me, like, people are important.
People skills.
And relationships with people are important.
Thank you. That's good. Anyone else?
There was, yeah, sorry, JG.
No, the person has needed to jump off, but Hisham asked the question to say, sure, you know, the panelists seem to be skewed to a kind of a startup consulting slash
I didn't see that.
Advisor grouping, and I was wondering if that is if the items that we've shared today have a bias as a result of that being the case, or are the stresses and strains that we've spoken about in terms of career management, career governance, let's call it data governance, career governance, is it harder in a bigger organization? I mean, here I am saying, as an entrepreneur, you actually don't get to control the how the things fall. You got to address them in the sequence they come to you, and you build out your capability set over time as a result of what's coming at you. And I sit here going, oh, it would be so much easier in a bigger company, but yet Hashem is saying, no, it's not like that, because you have politics and you have, constraints and so on. So I was interested as to whether we've introduced a valid bias, or whether, there's something else here that's got nothing to do with the size. It's got to do with the approach. And that would be a key learning for today's call, as I put it out there as a question.
So JG, we actually had a career interview with Tozzy, and it's a pity he's not on the call. I should have got him on the call. And we prepared this deck for him and said, if this is where you want to go, he's currently a DBA and he would like to be a data architect. And I suggested, for you to get to your path, these are the steps that you need to take. And one of the recommendations is take it to your HR people, take it to your management, and actually be open with them to say, this is where I'd like to go. This is my reasoning. This is the data that I've used. Interesting, he came back the next day and said he went to chat to his HR, and they have a position as a data architect open, and they were looking to see how they fill it. So there's a situation of, we need to understand our menu. We need to communicate, not to say we won't do anything but this, but it's, guys, this is what makes me passionate, and I'll stay with you for however long you get me there, and we're walking this road together.
Yeah, how as you share that, it's like, as a manager of a staff member, if that staff member comes across with a level of passion, sharing, saying, I'd like to, just immediately, by virtue of that being shared, you're aware of it and you start looking for those options. So, I was typing to Hisham and then left the call, but it really is one of those things where just ask, and then if the manager can't see the way, help them see the way, even if it's not right, but at least there's an awareness. And so I think that the construct of data management is so multidisciplined, multifaceted within the disciplines, that I sometimes think that we need to help demystify it for people, even if we take a bit of a narrow view of it because of what we want to do. That's okay. It is a case of just state what you want, and be amazing how that comes together. So thanks, Howard. I think that would have been a cool answer to Shem's question, and I'm hoping that if anybody else had that question, it was useful them on the call. Thanks, Howard.
And then we just had a question from Carolyn, which is quite interesting. She asked, how important is a data management career now versus previous years? And maybe we could ask Johan to answer that.
Sorry, Howard, I lost you there for a bit. Just repeat the question.
Okay, so Carolyn's question is, how important is the data management career now versus previous years in the past?
Oof. I don't think there's ever been a time when it's not been important. I think it's just urgent now. Because with the interconnectedness of everything and the way that data is driving value, it's, I think for any career, I mean, I spoke to my wife yesterday about it in their space, and it's all about the data and having the context and the understanding and being data literate. So it's extremely important, even if you're not planning on being a hardcore data analyst or a data management professional. You have to have the basics down.
And just to share as well, there's actually a new group of stock that I was actually looking the other day. They call it FANG, which is the Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Those are the top companies at the moment, and they're all at the leading edge of data. So that's where the company is transforming and changing. But yes, we have a question from Dumisa. Dumi?
Yes. Yeah, this was a good discussion. I think for me, I come from a a technical background as a software developer, so mostly you interact with the other developers and business analysts and testers. And now finding when you have to do things like data governance, data management, you have to interact with the business. So I'm just circling back to the people question. You know, when you have initiatives like, let's say, data quality, for instance, and you run a data quality program, the information you communicate, when you're not getting the engagement that you expect maybe from the business, it's sometimes it's difficult to judge what they feel about the information. Is it landing correctly? There's just maybe no reaction. How do you then kind of inspire interaction from people and maybe even get them to ask questions so that they feel part of the solution? Yeah, because often as a data person, everyone thinks everything to do with data is your problem. But I've been saying time and time again that you are the data owner, you are the data steward, so you also need to be involved. But I'm starting to find that is something that I have to constantly say and communicate all the time. But do you have any insights maybe you can share around persuading people, getting them involved, getting them engaged?
Yeah. So Dumi, I just put something on the chat, and it was a lot of what Esty was saying. Is there's that pro side thing called ADCAR, which we have to be very careful of. You know, and ADCAR stands for, are the people aware of the what data is all about? And then do they see the benefit for me? What's in it for me? And then the knowledge and ability and reinforcement. Now, so many times we're trying to shove knowledge down their throats that we realize that we forget that if they don't buy into what's in it for me, you can demand and beg and plead forever, but if you can't answer that benefit that they're going to get, you're in trouble. Now, this requires specialized change management people or a change management approach. And you'll find a lot of times if they're not buying into what you're saying and helping you, then you have to take a few steps back, do some form of stakeholder analysis, and then make sure that you're going through these steps. So don't ask them to get involved and define the data quality business rules and stuff like that. That's part of a knowledge thing. It's a case of, if you're not helping them understand the value that they're getting out of it, that's an awareness thing. And JG and I have built what we call that data value driven. What's the value to the business? Then understand by stakeholder what's their desire. Then start teaching them about data quality and master data and metadata and stuff like that. You know, until you get past those first A and D, you're gonna jump around all over the place.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's very helpful. I'll have a look at it.
But if you do need help, we've got all sorts of ways that you set up awareness, and that's what data governance needs to do. It has to be very careful of just shoving down policies, procedures, processes, and just say, okay, here you go, eat them all up and start doing it. The guys are saying, come on, man, I've got so much work to do. Now you want me to do your work, right? But that's because you haven't handled the upfront awareness and desire.
Cool.
And I think there was another question about taking on new technology like ChatGPT and AI and stuff like that. And there is this movement of, we all got to do it. And I keep saying to my people, I remember when I started at Standard Bank and the PC was brought about and we had OS2 and we were converting DOS systems to OS2 long time ago, and there were people on the mainframe that we were begging them to come and get involved at the PC development point of view because we had no controls. We had no SDLC. It was like the Wild West at the bottom there. But these people, they said, no, this is too much for us. We happy with COBOL, we happy with the mainframe. That's it, done. Now you looked at them 2-3 years later, and they were in a dead end. And we all have to be careful of seeing big data as this whole brand new thing. But let's understand, it's all about helping people make decisions. It's helping answer the question: what happened? Why did it happen? When will it happen? What should I do? And if you can simplify the goals that you're trying to achieve, then this thing is not scary. This thing is about applying a statistical analysis or whatever it is, a technique to find and answer the question. It's not about just, oh, let's run around and do lots of algorithm models and then not deliver any value. And the business asks, what are we doing here? Why are we getting any value? So we have to find the bridge that we can walk over from where we're at. And I liked Johan's comment of pivoting. And the important thing is keep one foot stable where you're at, and then just put the other foot into that area slowly but surely. And then you're not feeling like you got to jump in and then go and do YouTube or Udemy courses on till the cows come home on data science. Sometimes that's not useful either. You're on mute, Veronica.
It's nearly 25:05. We need to wrap it up if people want to go.
Okay.
Does anybody still have something to
any
add?
last question? Maybe just a final wrap-up comment from our panel members. Start with Esty, and then we'll go through to the others. Esty, final say from your side. Any insights for our people?
If you don't know exactly what your step-by-step path is, that is okay. You can know maybe a bit where you go, but then like discover, explore, see what you like, but keep that in mind. So it's okay if you don't know what you're going to do for the next 20 years, but start thinking what you want to do at least for like the next maybe 5-ish or so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Still
Thanks,
in
Howard.
control.
Thanks, Veronica. Thanks, STR. I would probably love to have you said that comment, because being a serial change agent, but there's also a slight danger in that. ST, I'd say I like the approach of the 5 years. That's brilliant. I think it's not because sometimes the 20-year gets a bit blurry and you think, shucks, is this all going to work out? But just a comment from me is the community that's been developed here on the webinar and the series. Part of the confidence that I've been able to gain in, and when I say, I wrote it down, even, what's in it for me, it's this. I mentioned it earlier. It's tangible when you mix with professionals like we are on the call, and it's tangible, and you see it happening. It's not just some a mirage and thing out there that's unachievable, unattainable. There are solid people, solid folks that are doing it, and I think finding the community at the least is a great catalyst to driving your career in the right direction.
Fully agree with you. Johan?
So I think from my side, and it's going to sound blasé, but the thing you need to do for yourself is to never stop dreaming. So chase your dreams, and if you're not dreaming, then find a dream and live with that purpose in mind. From your passion, let your passion propel you forward, and then just try and make a difference every day. Add value. That will just pull you forward. That's yeah.
You mean even little things makes a difference. JG?
Yeah, I mean, I think the there's an age-old adage which says time is money, and I actually think that that's wrong, because I believe that focus is money. It's what you do with the time that makes the difference. And I think we really we have a responsibility, because data allows you to focus on the right things. And so, like, that's what I hold on to, and I look at everything through that lens, and that simple thing, and so it's been really a privilege to kind of share with the community in terms of what are those little things that you hold on to, but they're not big, and they're definitely not data science-y, elk. It's just these little things that you're going, hang on, that's the difference that I bring. And I think that that's how we make a difference, is each of us just holding on to our own, that principle. We hold on to it, we're consistent to it, and we go with each other. Exciting stuff. But thanks for the opportunity to just share. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, JG.